All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about Cleanspark. They are a Bitcoin mining company, as most of you know, stock ticker CLSK. There's a lot to go through here. They put out their monthly operational report for November. I want to go through that. They put out their financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2024. So I want to go through a bunch of that too. I want to talk about their stock dilution. I want to talk about their growth, and I want to talk about where is their next funding coming from. So we have an awful lot to go through. If you're new to the channel, we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time. So if that's content you're interested in, please consider subscribing to this channel. And of course, if you could do us a giant favor and hit the like button, we're going for 300 likes. It really makes a huge difference for the channel and for the video. So we want to help get this out to other people. Okay, let's talk about Cleanspark. I'm going to start with their monthly operational report. So Cleanspark releases November 2024 Bitcoin mining update. This was released December 3rd, 1 week ago. So first thing I want to do, I want to go through their bullet points. November Bitcoin mining update unaudited. So the first bullet point, Bitcoins mined in November, 622. So that was the second most out of any company. If you look in green here, you'll see November, and you're going to see Cleanspark is highlighted in green at 622 Bitcoin. So Marathon is the largest Bitcoin miner. They mined 907 Bitcoin, but Cleanspark is in a very, very solid second place with 622 Bitcoin mined. The next closest Bitcoin miner is Riot, who has roughly the same amount of exahash, but they mined about 127 less Bitcoin than Cleanspark did. So 622 versus 495. Iron is next. Iron is going to be sneaking up, but I do think Cleanspark moved into second place about 6 months ago, and I think they're going to maintain that position for the rest of the year and beyond. I think they stand a good shot of maintaining that position for all of 2025. Of course, obviously, a lot needs to happen between now and then, and we're going to talk about what their plans are, but other companies have plans as well, so we will see. But for the moment, they are in a very, very solid second place as far as the number of Bitcoin mined per month out of all the publicly traded Bitcoin miners. All right, so if we look at the next bullet point, current year 2024 Bitcoin mined. So this is the calendar year. They've mined 6,356 Bitcoin. That is in second place as well. So early on, Core Scientific was in second place, but Core Scientific has split their business. That's for a separate video. So they've kind of gotten stagnant as far as the number of Bitcoin they mined. And Cleanspark is now mining about double the amount of Bitcoin Core Scientific is. So that has allowed them on a year-to-date basis to not only catch up, but in this month of November, pass Core Scientific. So Cleanspark is now and will finish the year in second place for overall number of Bitcoin mined. Okay, the third bullet point, total Bitcoin holdings as of November 30th, 9,297. That is the third place HODL position out of all the publicly traded Bitcoin miners, and it's one of the top 10 HODL positions out of any publicly traded company in the world. So if we look at this chart, this is from October. We're about to do the November video. Everybody has reported at this point, but if you look, Cleanspark was in fourth place. They're now over 9,200. HUT came in at around 9,120. So Cleanspark moved ahead of HUT. They are now in third place overall for HODL. Obviously, Marathon is way out in first place. When we do this month's video, you're going to see Marathon's HODLing all of their Bitcoin. They're borrowing billions of dollars to buy more Bitcoin. But with all that said, Cleanspark is in third place. And these four companies, I think, are going to be the four that come out of this with big HODL positions. And we're going to see how the market treats those as Bitcoin starts to take its big run to the upside. We don't know where it's going. We don't know where it's going to finish, but I do think if Bitcoin gets to some of the numbers people are talking about, 150, 175, $200,000, these companies that have big HODL positions are going to be hugely, hugely profitable. And I think that that is going to be ultimately, it's going to have to end up being reflected in their stock, in my opinion. Okay, we'll go down to this bullet point. Month-end fleet efficiency, 19.05 joules per terahash. So that is the second best fleet efficiency out of any of the Bitcoin miners that have reported this. So as far as fleet efficiency goes, they are also in second place overall. By the way, Iron is in first place. They just reported 15 joules per terahash. So they're in first place by quite a bit. A lot of companies are going to continue to swap out old machines for new machines and grow with new machines. So these numbers are going to keep going down, but 19.05 joules per terahash is very efficient. So that's another great number. Month-end operating hash rate, 33.8 3.7 exahash. That is in second place out of all the Bitcoin miners. Only Marathon, which has substantially more, they have 46 exahash at the end of November. Only Marathon has more exahash. Riot is getting close. Iron got up to 28. So between CleanSpark, Riot, and Iron, I think over the next year, you're going to see those three fight for second place in a lot of these categories. But right now, CleanSpark holds second place really for all of them. Yeah, with all of that said, this stock is being treated very poorly. CleanSpark stock is up 18% year to date in the year 2024. This is in a year that Bitcoin is up 142% year to date. So Bitcoin has rallied huge. There are a few Bitcoin miners that have come along with them. Most of the Bitcoin miners have not followed in this rally. They are being held behind. There's a lot of theories and reasons for that. A very popular talking point is a lot of hedge funds are going long Bitcoin and shorting the Bitcoin miners. I'm not sure how much longer that's going to last, if indeed that's what's happening, but there's no doubt, for whatever reason, the Bitcoin mining stocks have been held way behind. And CleanSpark is underperforming even versus their peers. They're the fourth or fifth worst performer out of the top 12, up only 18%. There are 5 Bitcoin miners that are up over 100% year to date. So some of the Bitcoin miners have been rewarded. CleanSpark for the first 5 months of the year was the #1 performing Bitcoin stock. Then for whatever reason, they've had a reversal of fortune. I think it has a lot to do with stock dilution, but I think the market is going to digest this and catch up on this. So I want to talk about stock dilution next and talk about what CleanSpark's done and what they're doing. Okay, on March 28th, CleanSpark did an $800 million at the market offering. So much earlier in the year. So like I said, their stock peaked in about May. Now, this $800 million offering is now done. It's been used, and I'll just show you a few lines from their financial statements that talk about that. So you'll see September 30th. This is just an excerpt from Note 14, which is stockholders' equity. The company has sold 44.4 million shares under the 2024 at-the-market agreement for net proceeds of about $593 million. That's as of September 30th, which is the most recent financial statement. The company has $101,605,000 of remaining capacity to issue. The last sentence, the company has issued all of the at-the-market remaining capacity through the date of these consolidated financial statements, as noted in Note 19. So here's an excerpt from subsequent events, Note 19, at-the-market offering. The company issued another 16.6 million shares at the market for $191 million. So the $800 million is now used and gone. They have no open at the market offering. Having said that, on October 25th, you'll see also under subsequent events in footnote 19, increase in authorized shares of common stock. On October 25th, 2024, the company's stockholders approved an amendment to the company's articles of incorporation, which amendment increased the number of shares of common stock authorized for issuance from 300 million shares to 600 million shares. So that doubles the number of potential shares that they can issue. Now, they were coming up on this 300 million shares. We're going to show you that. So this is something I think needed to be done, but I suspect they are not going to do another at-the-market offering anytime soon. We have seen a series, now 5 or 6 different Bitcoin miners, recently, over the last 1 month, do convertible debt. Marathon has now raised $2 billion in the last month of convertible debt at 0% interest. Core Scientific raised $550 million at 0% interest. Well, CleanSpark's balance sheet is as good or better than those companies, so it's my opinion that they are going to switch from at-the-market offerings to convertible debt. This has been a better equation. This is the MicroStrategy equation that has caused their stock to go up 600% in the last year. So I think you're going to see CleanSpark follow along that path. We've had 5 of the Bitcoin mining companies do this in the last 1 month. And I think this is probably going to be imminent because, like I said, they did use the $800 million at-the-market offering that they have. So wherever their next capital is coming from, I think we're going to find that out sooner than later. So I have no information past beyond my speculation. I would guess that they are going to switch to convertible debt. Both of the companies I mentioned, Marathon and Core Scientific, were able to have convertible debt due in 2031, 7 years from now, at 0% interest. So anything that's structured even close to that, there are other companies that are issued some at 3%. So all of that is extremely good debt. And remember, the Bitcoin miners could not touch debt with a 10-foot pole for 3 years. Nobody could borrow a penny. So the floodgates have opened. It's one of the things that Zach talked about on the conference call. There is now liquidity. There's now cash to be had for these Bitcoin miners, and they are looking at different ways to raise money. I want to just go through a little equation that I do to see if we're getting our money's worth, because I know people get very frustrated at this massive amount of dilution. So this is just a little presentation I've put together, and this is basically how I look at each company. CleanSpark's year end is September 30th, so we can look year over year and see they went from 160 million shares at September 30th, 2023 to 270 million shares at September 30th, 2024. That's an additional 110 million shares. While in the subsequent events notes, we noted that in the next 2 months following that, so the 14-month period, they added another 16.6 million shares. So total shares issued in 14 months, 127 million shares. That's just under 80% stock dilution. So in a bubble on its own, in a vacuum, that seems like a horrific number. That is a massive amount of stock dilution. But if you look at their September 2023 monthly operational update, you'll see that they were at 9.6 exahash. So in that same 14 months now through 11/30, they are now at 33.7 exahash. So while they did dilute their stock almost 80%, they've increased their exahash 251%, more than triple the rate at which they've increased their amount of outstanding stock. So to me, this is exactly what I'm looking for. You want to get your bang for your buck. They're borrowing money. They're clearly not wasting it. They are growing. They're one of the fastest growing Bitcoin mining companies out there. So I want to go to this chart, because what this has allowed them to do is you're going to see in the last 2 months, they've mined 665 Bitcoin and 622 Bitcoin. So this is after the halving. Remember, the reward has been cut in half. In addition to that, the difficulty level is up about 50%. So there are massive things going against these Bitcoin miners. But even with all of that, because they've grown so fast, you'll see if we go back to November and October of 2023, a year ago, 666 Bitcoin and 633 Bitcoin. So they are now mining the same amount of Bitcoin they were a year ago when the difficulty level was significantly lower and the reward was double. So all of this growth has allowed them to keep pace with two things: the halving, the reward being cut in half, and the massive increases in the difficulty level. So that was their goal when they put this plan together, and it is playing out just like they expected. So I really like this company. I think they're doing good things. If we go back to this chart, you're going to see over here in these columns, this is their growth in the last 3 months. So going back to September versus August, CleanSpark added 5 exahash. In October versus September, they added 3.7 exahash, and in November versus October, they added 2.4 exahash. That's 11 exahash they've added in the last 3 months. So there's 2 companies that are growing rapidly: CleanSpark and Iron. Actually, 3, Marathon is at 46 exahash. So those 3 companies, more than anybody else, have really outpaced the field, and it's showing up particularly in Marathon and CleanSpark's results. Zach did talk about on the conference call, it's their intention to outpace the difficulty level and the halving. So I just showed you that they're basically on track, on pace with doing that. On a going forward basis, Zach talked about the fact that in 2025, he thinks there's going to be more building than buying. In other words, the merger and acquisition phase of this process for CleanSpark, he thinks, is behind them. They're going to start to build out their own facilities. And he talked about the fact that the U.S. is full of abundant, low-cost power in rural areas. So he really targeted that. And CleanSpark has a diverse portfolio. They're in many different locations, and they are out there looking for rural areas that have excess capacity where they can come in, build their own facilities, and get cheap energy. That has been their formula. That's what they played out in the year 2024. That's what they plan to do going forward in the year 2025. I want to take a look at their investor presentation that they put out in September, because they had a really clear plan, and they're actually ahead of that plan. Okay, so again, this is their investor presentation that they put out in September. This was a few months ago. You can see in the second half of 2024, they were shooting for 32 exahash. So they're already at 33.7. They're looking to be at 37 at the end of this month. So that's 5 exahash past what their goal was just a few months ago. Then they were saying in 2025, 50 exahash. Now, Zach talked a couple of times about the fact that they have their price locked in on Bitcoin miners to get to 63 exahash in 2025. He also talked about the fact that from an infrastructure standpoint, he felt it would only cost about $200 million to build out the infrastructure for them to place all of those machines and get to that 63 exahash. So I think you're going to see them start talking about 63 as their targeted exahash for 2025. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if they go beyond that. So that is just my opinion, of course. So that is what's going on with CleanSpark. You can see, in my opinion, this is a company that operationally they're performing very well. It's a company that has a massive amount of liquidity. They're coming up on $1 billion worth of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and they only have about $200 million of liabilities in total. So they have a very strong balance sheet. They have a very clear growth path. So again, not financial advice, but for me, this is a company, I like what they're doing. I think their stock price is lagging behind. I'm expecting it to catch up, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. So that's everything going on with CleanSpark. If you made it this far in the video, thanks so much for watching. Please remember to smash the like button. And also, if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next video.